The submarine aircraft carrier, Japan's giant I-400 submarine with 3 bombers. In 1945, the largest submarine in the world wasn't just a submarine, it was an invisible aircraft carrier, 400 feet long, designed to surface off the coast of America, assemble 3 bombers on its deck, and launch an attack from underwater. It had a range to circle the entire globe 1.5 times. And the United States had absolutely no idea it existed. This sounds like science fiction, but it was terrifyingly real. It was the Imperial Japanese Navy's I-400 Sentoku class, a weapon so far ahead of its time that no other nation would build a submarine of its size for another 2 decades until the advent of nuclear power. How is this possible? How do you hide 3 fully functional attack planes inside a metal tube built to withstand the crushing pressure of the deep ocean? How do you assemble them on a wet, pitching deck in the middle of the night, launch them, and then submerge again before an entire enemy fleet descends on you? The I-400 wasn't just a technical marvel, it was a strategic dagger. This wasn't a scout plane, this was a bomber. It was designed to carry an 1,800-pound bomb or a torpedo directly to the American mainland. The existence of this single weapon fundamentally challenged the idea that America was safe between 2 oceans. The primary target wasn't a city, not at first. It was the single most strategic choke point on Earth, the Panama Canal. If the I-400s could sneak into the Caribbean and cripple the Gatun locks, they would sever the US Navy in 2. The Atlantic Fleet would be trapped, unable to join the war in the Pacific. Such an attack, military planners estimated, could have added 6 months to the war. 6 more months of brutal, island-hopping warfare, costing hundreds of thousands of additional lives. This impossible weapon was born from the mind of one of Japan's most famous admirals, Isoroku Yamamoto, the architect of Pearl Harbor. He believed you could only win a war by striking the enemy's homeland, by crushing their morale. And he didn't just want to bomb the canal. His original terrifying plan was something far, far worse. A plan to unleash biological devastation on the American West Coast. This was a weapon conceived in desperation, designed in secret, and built against all odds. The I-400s were completed, the planes were built, the crews were trained for their one-way mission. But the weapon that could have changed the war never fired a shot at its intended target. The story of why is more fascinating than the machine itself. It involves desperate changes, near discoveries, and a final secret mission that was only hours from succeeding when the world changed forever. It all started with a wound, not a physical one, but a psychological one. The Doolittle Raid of 1942. American B-25 bombers launching from the carrier USS Hornet struck Tokyo. The material damage was minimal, but the shame was catastrophic. It proved the sacred homeland was vulnerable. Admiral Yamamoto was furious. He became obsessed with retaliation. He needed a way to hit the American mainland, to prove that America was just as vulnerable as Japan. But America was 5,000 miles away. No Japanese bomber could make the round trip, and a surface aircraft carrier fleet would be spotted and sunk hundreds of miles from the Californian coast. Yamamoto's solution was insane. What if the aircraft carrier could hide? What if it could travel under the ocean? He envisioned a fleet of submersible carriers, the Sentoku class. He didn't just want 1 or 2. He pushed for, and got approval for, a fleet of 18 of them. His initial plan was to use this fleet to launch conventional bombing raids on New York City, Washington, D.C., and other major cities. But as the war turned against Japan after the Battle of Midway, the plan grew darker and more desperate. By 1943, with resources dwindling and the enemy closing in, the target shifted. It was no longer just about bombing. It became Operation PX. The plan was to load the I-400's planes with plague-infected fleas, cholera and other pathogens cultivated by Japan's infamous Unit 731. The targets, San Diego, Los Angeles and other densely populated areas on the West Coast. This was a line too far, even for some in the wartime high command. General Yoshijiro Umezu, the Army Chief of Staff, famously objected. He argued that if Japan used such a weapon, the Allies would undoubtedly retaliate in kind, and it would escalate the conflict from a war between nations to a war between humanity and bacteria. The biological attack was reluctantly vetoed by a single general's intervention, but the desperation remained. With Operation PX shelved, the mission for the I-400s defaulted to the next most strategic target, the Panama Canal. But building the submarines to get there was a problem that had never been solved in human history. They would have to be the largest, longest-range submarines ever conceived, and they would have to be built by a nation that was already running out of steel, oil and time. How do you build a submarine that's 400 feet long in a country that's being firebombed? And how exactly do you make it an aircraft carrier? The I-400 wasn't just big, it was a monster. At 400 feet long and 40 feet wide, it displaced 6,500 tons. It was longer than many American destroyers. The first stroke of genius was its unique figure-8 hull. Instead of a single round pressure hull, the I-400 was essentially two submarine hulls welded together side by side. This provided immense strength and stability, but more importantly, it created a wide, flat deck on top, a deck big enough for a hangar and a catapult. The hangar was the centerpiece, a 115-foot-long, 12-foot diameter pressurized tube running along the top of the sub. It was designed to hold 3 Seran M6A bombers. But this created an immediate massive problem. How do you open a giant door on a submarine? You can't have it open inward, and if it opens outward, the water pressure would keep it sealed. The solution was a massive 50-ton, hydraulically powered steel door, hinged at the top like a giant clamshell. It was sealed by a 20-inch thick hollow rubber gasket, which was inflated with compressed air to make it watertight to 300 feet. That figure-8 hull had another secret too. It allowed the conning tower, the submarine's bridge, to be offset to the port side. This was revolutionary. It created a clear, 120-foot-long, unobstructed flight deck on the starboard side, where the planes could be moved, assembled, and armed. And then, the planes. These were not flimsy scout planes. The Aichi M6A Seiren was a purpose-built attack bomber. It could carry an 1,800-pound bomb and was faster than many land-based fighters. To make it fit, its engineers designed it like a complex piece of origami. The wings didn't just fold, they rotated 90 degrees, then folded back against the fuselage. The horizontal tail fins folded down, the vertical tail fin folded over. The floats, needed to land the plane on the water, were stored in separate pressurized lockers on the deck. A team of 12 men was trained to wheel all 3 planes out of the hangar, attach the preheated floats, lock the wings and tails in place, arm the bombs, and launch them from a 70-foot compressed air catapult, all in under 30 minutes. Early tests were a disaster. It took hours, but through relentless, brutal training, practicing in darkness, in rough seas, in total silence, they got it down. 3 bombers in the air in less than 30 minutes from the moment the submarine's deck broke the surface. And then, the range. To reach Panama from Japan, stalk the target, and return, the I-400 needed to be a long-haul trucker. It carried over 500,000 gallons of diesel fuel. This gave it a range of 37,500 nautical miles. That is 1.5 times around the entire planet without refueling. No other submarine in the world came close. To make them even more invisible, the submarines were equipped with German-designed snorkels, allowing them to run their diesel engines and charge their batteries while still submerged at periscope depth. Their hulls were coated in a special black, sound-absorbing rubber tile. It was the first stealth coating of its kind, designed to defeat American sonar. They ultimately built 3 of these monsters, I-400, I-401, and I-402. The crews were trained, the planes were ready. In December 1944, they were formed into Submarine Division 1. But there was a problem. Admiral Yamamoto, the man who ordered their creation, was dead, shot down by American fighters, and the new admirals had different ideas. With Admiral Yamamoto gone, the I-400s had no champion. The new Naval High Command looked at these colossally expensive, fuel-guzzling machines and saw a strategic error. They wanted them used for something else, preferably for suicide attacks against the US fleet. The Panama Canal attack, codenamed Operation Show, was greenlit, but with a new commander, Captain Tatsunosuke Ariazumi. The plan was audacious. The subs would travel from Japan, south across the Pacific, around Cape Horn in South America, and then attack the Gatun locks from the Caribbean side, where defenses were weakest. It was a 17,000-mile, 3-month journey, one way. The crews began practicing. In a remote bay in Japan, they built a full-scale wooden mock-up of the Gatun locks. The Seiran pilots practiced bombing runs day and night, determining the exact angle of attack needed to rupture the gates and empty the lake. But here's the insane part. The Seiran planes were seaplanes. They had floats. The plan was, and always had been, for the pilots to fly their bombing mission, ditch their planes in the ocean near the submarine, and hope to be rescued by the sub's crew before enemy patrols found them. The multi-million-dollar planes were completely disposable. The situation for Japan was catastrophic. The High Command demanded every available weapon be thrown at the American fleet in a desperate last stand. The Panama Canal mission was scrubbed. The I-400s were ordered to remove their planes and load up with Kaiten, manned kamikaze torpedoes. This was a complete misuse of their capability. Their commander, Captain Ariazumi, furiously protested. He argued that sacrificing these priceless long-range strategic weapons on a tactical target was madness. He managed to delay, to argue, to stall. Finally, a compromise was reached. The US fleet was massing at a place called Ulithi Atoll. It was the new Pearl Harbor, a massive, sprawling naval anchorage in the Caroline Islands, the largest in the world. If they could sink the American carriers there, it might delay the inevitable invasion of Japan. This would be the I-400's first and only combat mission. Operation Arashi. The subs I-400 and I-401 would sail to Ulithi. 2 smaller, faster subs, I-13 and I-14, would carry scout planes to reconnoiter the target first. This was no longer a simple bombing run. It was a kamikaze attack. The 6 Seirans from the 2 giant subs were to be launched on a one-way mission, crashing directly into the American aircraft carriers. To ensure they got close enough, the High Command issued a new order. The planes were to be painted with American markings. They would fly in disguised as friendly aircraft. This was a flagrant violation of the rules of war, a false flag suicide mission. In late July 1945, the fleet set sail. The mission began with a disaster. The I-13, with its scout planes, was spotted by a US destroyer and sunk with all hands. But the I-14 got through. Its scout plane flew over Ulithi and radioed back a simple, chilling message: carriers everywhere. The I-400 and I-401 were proceeding separately to their rendezvous point, scheduled for August 16th. They planned to surface just after midnight, assemble their planes, and launch their combined 6 kamikaze Seirans, painted as US planes, at dawn on August 17th. They were less than 48 hours from their launch point. The crews were in the hangars, checking the engines, preparing the bombs, and painting the fake white stars and bars on the wings. And then, on August 15th, 1945, a coded message reached both submarines. Cease all offensive operations. The Emperor had surrendered. The war was over. But for the crews of the I-400 and I-401, floating in enemy-controlled waters, the most dangerous part of their journey was just beginning. The crews were devastated. The flotilla commander, Captain Ariazumi, was reportedly enraged. He wanted to proceed with the attack on Ulithi anyway. His subordinate captains refused. They argued that the Emperor's order was absolute. A near mutiny occurred. Finally, Ariazumi relented. The mission was off. Now they had a new order: destroy all sensitive equipment and evidence of their mission. The crews were ordered to fire all their torpedoes harmlessly into the sea. They dumped their code books, their charts, and their mission logs. And then the planes, the one by one, the priceless Siren bombers, the entire reason for the submarine's existence, were wheeled onto the catapult. But first, crews were ordered to frantically scrape the fake US markings off the wings. They were erasing the evidence of their planned war crime. Then, the planes were launched, unmanned, into the ocean. They nosed over and sank, never having seen combat. The subs surfaced, raised the black flag of surrender, and steamed slowly back toward Japan. On August 27th, the USS Segundo, an American submarine, found the I-401. The American sailors boarded and were confused. This sub was massive. It was bigger than their sub. It made no sense. Then they opened the hangar. The Americans were stunned. The I-400 was captured 2 days later by the USS Bluegill. When the Americans captured the flotilla's commander, Captain Ariazumi, they found him dead in his cabin. The official report was suicide. But he was found with a fatal dose of medication, and rumors among his own crew suggested it was an assisted suicide or even murder to prevent him from revealing the secrets of Operation PX, the biological attack plan, during interrogation. We will likely never know the truth. The captured I-400s were a technological goldmine. US Navy engineers pored over them, first in Japan and then in Pearl Harbor, where they were sailed for intensive study. They were shocked by the range, the snorkel, the stealth coating, and the sheer audacity of the design. The US Navy immediately classified everything about them. But there was just one problem. The war was over, but a new cold tension was rising with America's ally, the Soviet Union. Under the Yalta Agreement, the Allies were supposed to share all captured enemy technology. The Soviets knew the subs existed. They had been photographed in Japan, and they formally requested access for their own engineers to inspect them. The US Navy had zero intention of letting Stalin's engineers see this technology. An underwater aircraft carrier, a globe-spanning range, a sound-dampening stealth coating? Absolutely not. The US Admiralty was faced with a choice: honor their treaty and give the Soviets the technology that could one day be used against them, or, remember, these were the largest, most advanced submarines on Earth. And the US Navy decided the only way to keep them secret from their allies was to sink them. On May 31st, 1946, the I-400 and I-401 were towed out of Pearl Harbor. The official story given to the press was that they were unstable and unsafe. The real reason was secrecy. The USS Trumpetfish, a US submarine, fired 2 torpedoes into the I-401. The I-400 was sunk nearby, used as a target for the submarine USS Bugara. The I-402, which had been converted to a tanker and never saw action, was sunk off the coast of Japan. The US Navy told the Soviets the subs had been disposed of due to their poor condition. They classified the exact location of the wrecks. The I-400 and its revolutionary secrets were now at the bottom of the ocean, hidden from the world. But the idea was out. The US Navy had seen what was possible. The concept of launching a weapon from a submerged, hidden platform, that didn't go away. Just 1 year later, in 1947, the US successfully launched a Loon missile, a copy of the German V-1 flying bomb, from the deck of a submarine. The I-400 had launched planes. The US was now launching missiles. This idea evolved. The I-400 is the direct technological and spiritual ancestor of the most terrifying weapon ever created, the ballistic missile submarine, the boomer. The doctrine is identical. The I-400's mission was to provide a secret, undetectable, long-range strike capability against an enemy's homeland. That is the exact doctrine of every American, Russian, Chinese, and British nuclear submarine today. And remember that black rubberized anti-sonar coating, that insignificant detail? It is now standard on every single modern military submarine. The anechoic tiles that make a $3 billion Virginia-class sub, a black hole in the ocean, are a direct descendant of the coating tested on the I-400. The I-400 didn't change the outcome of World War II, but it absolutely fundamentally changed the Cold War and the 21st century. The entire concept of nuclear deterrence, the boomer hiding in the ocean, traces its lineage back to this Japanese monster. The subs remained hidden for decades, but in 2005, researchers from the Hawaii Undersea Research Laboratory, using high-tech sonar, found the I-401. It was sitting upright in 2,600 feet of water off the coast of Oahu. Then, in 2013, they found the flagship, the I-400. The footage was breathtaking, all sitting in the dark, a secret no longer. The submarines, built in total secrecy to perform a secret mission, were then captured in secret, studied in secret, and sunk in secret, only to be rediscovered 70 years later by civilian scientists and broadcast to the entire world on the internet. The technology of the I-400 changed the world, but there's one last twist, a human twist. What happened to the men who designed the planes for this impossible mission? Remember the Siren? The M6A plane designed to be launched from a submarine? It was a technological marvel designed by a team at the Aichi Aircraft Company. When the war ended, Aichi Aircraft was dissolved by the American occupation. Its engineers were scattered. The chief designer of the Siren's revolutionary engine, a man who had worked on this incredible weapon of war, found himself without a job. So he started a new company, he and a few of his colleagues from the aircraft factory. But they weren't building weapons anymore. They decided to build something for the new, peaceful Japan. They took their expertise in small, powerful, and above all, reliable engines and applied it to something else entirely. The company they founded was called Aichi Kogyo. In the 1960s, that company merged with another group. Today, we know it as Toyota. The engineering brilliance that designed a kamikaze bomber to be launched from a secret submarine is, today, part of the same corporate lineage that builds your reliable family car. The DNA of the I-400 is, in a strange way, sitting in driveways all over the world. The I-400 class is a perfect paradox. It was an engineering triumph that was a total strategic failure. It was the most advanced weapon of its time, and it accomplished nothing. It was designed to win the war for Japan, but its technology was instead captured by the victors, who used it to build the weapons that would define the next war, the Cold War. It teaches us that technological genius is amoral. It can be used to plan a horrifying biological attack or to design a transmission for a family sedan. The ingenuity is the same. The only thing that changes is the intent. We are still obsessed with the I-400's core idea, the undetectable, unfair first strike. Today, we call them hypersonic missiles, or autonomous drone swarms, or cyber weapons. We're still chasing the same ghost Yamamoto was chasing in 1942. Only 3 I-400s were ever completed, out of a planned fleet of 18. They sailed a combined distance of over 60,000 miles. They carried 9 of the most advanced attack planes on Earth. And in the end, the only things they ever destroyed were themselves.